All right, the Hawkeye state hit hard by a tornado outbreak. 20 tornadoes in all reported Tuesday. The images of the tornadoes as they unfolded are terrifying.
The town of Greenfield, Iowa took a direct hit, and the view from above shows the devastation and the path that tornado carved into the landscape, changing this community forever.
It was heartbreaking. I mean, there's houses that are gone, that you always saw. You knew where the landmarks were in town to get to where you needed to go. And so, yeah, it's awful.
Much of the town lays in ruins today, unrecognizable even to people who have lived here their entire lives. So now the extensive cleanup begins as survivors sift through tangled debris to try to find anything they can salvage.
Here's what we know. Storm surveyors in Greenfield have confirmed the tornado was at least an EF4 preliminarily. One person killed in last night's severe storms, and we're still learning who's accounted for and who's still missing in Greenfield. Iowa State Patrol says at least a dozen people were injured, including people who were inside a community hospital that had to be transferred to other facilities nearby. Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds has authorized a disaster emergency for 15 counties across the state and was on the ground in Greenfield this morning surveying the damage firsthand. We know it's going to be a long time before things return to normal in some of these communities that were hard hit. In addition, we're also watching severe storms returning again today. We've got you covered here for the next hour of Weather Unfiltered. Thanks for being with us. I'm Mike Bettis.
I'm Alex Wilson. As always, our expert, Dr. Rick Knabb, here with us. A tough day yesterday. We've got more severe weather out there today that we're monitoring, but of course, following the story out of Greenfield.
Yeah, and we often think of tornado events as they happened on a particular day. Mm-hmm. And yes, the tornado did, but the effects on that community and the people are going to last for years. Right. I mean, it is amazing how quickly a strong tornado that's narrow, moving at 50 to 60 miles an hour in just a short couple of minutes can change people's lives for years, decades, forever.
And we talk a lot about, like people's timelines in their life, right? And for a lot of people that live here in Greenfield will be before the tornado and after the tornado. That's how there'll be that demarcation in their life.
Right. And I'm sure they've known for years and decades how vulnerable the state of Iowa, along with other states in the region, are to tornadoes. You probably just don't ever really think it will happen to your small community.
Absolutely. And we're going to bring you an update from Greenfield in just a few minutes. Our Chris Bruin has been there on the ground. He is giving us a sense of, what's happening, talking to survivors, of course, and helping that community recover. I want to take you right now to Richardson, Texas, where we've got more severe weather on tap today. There's a live look. Again, visibility is down. The rain is coming down across the area. We've got big storms. We've got a tornado watch across North Texas, and it's not the only spot. Severe thunderstorm watches in effect for parts of the Mid-South, even into the Northeast. Mike, a pretty active day once again of severe weather.
It is, and we've got a tornado watch that does include Sherman, Texas, and Dallas, and Fort Worth, Waco, St. Angelo until 8 o'clock this evening. That's highlighted in red on your screen here. That's an area that's favorable for tornadoes for the next several hours here. Abilene up toward Wichita Falls, severe thunderstorm watch here. And then from Fort Smith and Texarkana all the way past Jackson and near Nashville, we have severe thunderstorm watches in effect in these locations as well. You're going to see a multitude of threats, whether it be high winds, whether it be large hail, whether it be tornadoes, flooding. All those things are happening in conjunction with these storms today. Storms are warned from deep in the heart of Texas here all the way over into Middle Tennessee. Want to get to this tornado warning here outside of St. Angelo. This is going to be along Highway 67, Brown and Coleman County with a tornado warning right now. We've got a hail core in that about to come over Coleman here. Then you've got rotation that sits south of there. So right in here is where the rotation is being detected on the Doppler radar. Could be headed toward the Santa Ana area. Please get into a safe spot quickly. So that's going to be a ground level room and away from windows and exterior doors. If you have the basement, if you have storm shelter, those are great places for you to go. In Santa Ana, it's going to be there at around 3:15, about 13 minutes from now. Obregon coming in for you around 3:24, and Bangs coming in for you around 3:32. Look at the hail on that one. That's a pretty sizable hail core that's coming over Coleman right now. So we're looking at hail size estimated by radar about 2.5 inches in diameter. So now you're talking a baseball size hail that's falling from the skies right now. And it would not be, at all surprising we saw baseball to softball size hail from the storms we get this afternoon. Work our way up outside of Dallas. We've had very strong storms all afternoon. North side of the Metroplex, Plano right now getting hit pretty hard. Hail's coming right over Plano and Highway 75, Collin, Dallas, and Rockwall counties with severe thunderstorm warnings here. So it's Garland, McKinney, it's Plano, and at 4 o'clock is the expiration on that one. Again, high population centers here, so when you get hail that's going over these large areas, all I think about, especially with hail size 1/2 inches in diameter, I think about 2 things really. That's golf ball size hail. I think about roof damage, and you see all these homes that are in there. I mean, high population. All those roofs that are going to need replaced because of the hail damage that they'll have, and all the cars that are parked outside that are getting severely dented because of that hail. So it's a huge insurance claim. Look at all the lightning, 3,000 lightning strikes in this complex in just the last 15 minutes. So again, electrified storm and being inside does offer you that protection. All around Memphis, we've been slammed this afternoon. The storm's now riding along Interstate 40 here. Jackson, eventually Nashville, I think you end up getting hit by these storms. From LaGrange up toward Jackson, we're under a severe thunderstorm warning in Hardin, Haywood, and Madison counties. Look at the wind with this, especially the front edge of that. That's where you have the highest winds. You're getting hit right now hard in Jackson. Wouldn't be surprised to see power outages with this one. Henderson, that's coming your way. Boulevard, Selmer, you're all on that path, same as Lexington. So in Jackson, 306, Boulevard on 312, Henderson 321 is when a high wind storm event comes your way. But that whole line is really tapping into a lot of available energy right now. Highlighted here in pink, you've got high to extreme amounts of energy, so the storms will just keep going, and more storms will build in this area that's been undisturbed by any clouds or any rain. It's not stabilized at all, Alex, so this is a very active location for the rest of the day.
Absolutely. We get you back to Greenfield, Iowa, where meteorologist Chris Bruin has been spending the day as the small community comes to grips with what happened.
We're right on the east side of Greenfield, Iowa, and you can clearly see the edge of the tornado path as it tore through the south and east part of the city. It's all hands on deck right now. You have obviously the people in town helping out one another, but many family and friends and strangers from neighboring counties and communities all across the region pouring in to Greenfield to help aid in the process. It's a widespread disaster zone. In fact, we can show you some drone footage, and it kind of gives you a perspective on how widespread the devastation is. And while the path itself is relatively narrow, it tracked through the south and east side of Greenfield, destroying almost everything where it touched in its wake. There are many homes and structures that don't even have a foundation anymore. They were completely wiped off. And if you didn't have a basement, it was hard to imagine anyone surviving that kind of destruction. Winds had to have been at least at 120 to 140 miles per hour, likely even stronger, especially to see the kind of damage that we're seeing and to see the wind turbines blown over and totally destroyed. We talked to one homeowner who lived here for 23 years. She actually grew up in Greenfield. This is her hometown. And while they're threatened with severe weather often, to have a tornado like this is a first. And here's what she had to say.
I called to make sure that my daughter was in the basement because she was home for yesterday from college. And then we just started hearing the noise and we heard everything hitting, and she was in the basement, and then she FaceTimed me and she was just crying and crying. I couldn't understand her. But her and our dog, they got out. Everybody's fine, so that's all that really matters. It was just so quick, and I couldn't, like I said, I couldn't understand her. I didn't know what had happened, and then she's like, "Mom, our house is gone." And she couldn't get out of the basement for a while, but then she moved some drywall and things and was able to get out, and she came up here, and I know she was talking with some other people around the neighborhood.
It's really hard to imagine what this family and many families here in Greenfield are going through. Obviously, so much has happened in such a short period of time. It's hard to even really grasp what's happened, and many of them, that's what they've told us. But going forward, it's starting with the basics, making sure you have food, shelter, and water, and then slowly picking up the pieces, whatever salvageable things you can find that have meaning, and then start rebuilding from there. A lot to cover here from Greenfield, Iowa.
Chris, thank you very much for that. Excuse me. We know that we've had a lot of damage that's happened for us here across Greenfield. I'm going to show you some of the aerials that we've seen. It does include A lot of damage to homes. You can see numerous vehicles that are piled up on top of each other. There at one point was a building right in there. I have no idea what that ended up being, but you can see the homes in this neighborhood between 2nd and 3rd that have been significantly damaged or just completely destroyed. Home that's missing here, home where the 2nd story is missing. A lot of debris hitting this one as it came from the southwest side of town to the northeast side of town. So much debris, literally other homes that were splintered are hitting that particular home. And you can see up on the screen here, home that's missing, home that's missing, home that is severely damaged here. I'm going to pause there for just a second and indicate a couple of different things here. This was the location of a mobile home, and it is not even there. Now, this home was a frame-built home, but it was on a cinder block foundation. We don't know how well it was attached. It may not have been well attached, but it was no match for the tornado, and it was splintered and pushed in this direction. Big tree right in here. Part of it is on this home. The front side of the home faces the street here. Now, this is an interesting home because it's partially underground. The back half of this home, the property slopes upwards, okay? The property slopes upward in this direction. So the back half of the home is actually partially underground. So what you're seeing here is mostly the roof that's been removed here. You see vehicles on top of debris here. This used to be a garage that was back in here. This is a really rough part of the neighborhood. This was the first part of Greenfield that ended up getting hit here. We'll go ahead and continue to roll the video here, but to show you that a lot of trees have been damaged, significant tree damage in all of these locations. There's a transmission tower just across the street here that actually is still standing, but you scan back and you can see there's debris everywhere you look. So that part of town that we just showed you was about a block in this direction, but you look at these homes now, you got a home here where it's tilted, the top story is missing. All of these homes are losses. This home, complete loss here. And notice this. Piles and piles of debris. Now, the street's been cleaned because they're trying to get the streets clean so you get in first responders, you can get a cleanup crews, a search and rescue. But notice that all the debris is being blown in generally in one direction. Now, we talk a lot about straight line winds where debris is in one direction, and in tornadoes where it's in multiple directions or circular fashion. And you had that, but the forward speed and the momentum of the debris went with that really fast forward speed, which was 50 plus miles per hour. So this is why you're seeing all the debris going in one direction. Then it's centrifuged out of that. So you'll see debris probably hundreds, if not, probably hundreds of yards away from the center of the actual vortex itself, Dr. Nab. But we've seen in some instances where debris has been carried miles from where it originally was. Yeah, and I think the radar imagery shows that likely happened with a tornado moving at 50, 55 miles an hour and picking up debris as it caused damage on the ground and then moving along, carrying that debris with it. And that small, intense spin, that tornado was among many tornadoes spawned by a large spin, the parent weather system that moved across northwestern Iowa. And there was so much instability and so much wind shear in the atmosphere that we had multiple strong fast-moving supercells, and that made them long track, and that resulted in the long track tornadoes. And there is that same parent low up north of Minnesota right now, in the front that it has laid down into Texas. So overall, this same weather system is still producing severe weather, but thankfully not in Iowa today. The storms are staying to the north, and in Greenfield today, there southwest of Des Moines, temperatures are in the 70s, and at least temperature-wise, things will stay pretty tolerable over the next several days. The likelihood of severe weather is not very high at all, but we'll have to watch this weekend's systems. But mostly it looks like it'll stay to the south and or east of Greenfield. And there's the areas that are going to be surveyed by the teams over the next few days. The weather will generally cooperate with those efforts. And here is that long track pair of supercells. The main one that lasted the longest went through Greenfield. And Mike, we could track that debris ball even on just the reflectivity before and after it went over Greenfield. It was definitely scary on the radar to see, and we saw what played out in real life, unfortunately. Now, tomorrow, we've got another chance for some storms. We outlined what we're going to see today, but tomorrow they come back again. The most likely location, Nebraska and then northern Kansas, but areas from the Dakotas down through Texas over into Tennessee end up getting hit as well. Pretty classic setup once again. You got the flow that comes in out of the Gulf of Mexico, feeding out ahead of that dry line. Dry line will aid in lift, so will the low itself. We got pretty decent low and mid-level, even upper level setup here, which increases your chances for some stormy storminess, and that's going to be in 2 different pockets here in Texas, then up into the high plains as well. Those mid-level winds are going to turn with height. So remember, surface winds are going to be coming in this direction, and then you're going to have the mid-level winds that are cut in this direction. So you're going to have wind shear, favorable to keep supercells forming, and those are the ones that usually produce the biggest impact, right? The highest winds, the largest hail, the tornado threat. So in the morning, we'll actually have some storms there through the Arklatex and up through the mid-Mississippi River Valley. Those storms push east, and then more storms form for you down here in Texas and in Oklahoma. That's through the middle of the afternoon. Some of those could be huge hailers, maybe even tornadoes. Then watch up near that low. There are the storms rumbling across Nebraska, Kansas, and the breadbasket once again. Areas that just got hit in Iowa could be victims tomorrow night. All right, so heads up on that and make sure you're in a safe location for the nighttime hours. Because we've had so much rain lately, because there's more rain in our forecast, of course, there's going to come a flood risk as well. This will be from Thursday morning through Friday morning. Could extend from like a Brainerd and the Twin Cities down through Omaha and Lincoln. These areas, I think, along I-80, particularly susceptible because we've had so much rain of late. So just keep that in mind. Be careful if you're driving. Never drive on a water-covered road. Turn around. Don't drown. Once you stay with us, more coverage of severe weather threats when we come back right here on Weather Underground.